Hello. uh, I'm not a big fan, to be honest, of Zen. There's really no need to do that spiritual hokey pokey routine where you have to sit just in a certain way and do rituals and stuff like that. It's all kind of silly. So the Zen priests that I have sat with and kind of been their student back in the day, what I see them do is they would get dressed up in their robes and then sit. And then when they're done sitting, they would instantly go back and engage in the world, try to make the world a better place. Or like one Zen priest, she would meditate in the morning for an hour and then immediately take her robes off and then jump on Facebook and engage in the world. So, and the fact that I got kicked out of um, a Zendo kind of made me not want to be a Buddhist anymore. So to me, Buddhism is just another religion. And the major problem with Buddhism is that it doesn't even recognize that there's a self, right? So it doesn't recognize that the world is an illusion, and it doesn't recognize that there's a self. So from my perspective, Buddhism is incorrect. Hmm. Well, I could save you some time there because I spent a decade as calling myself a Buddhist, and I was also still seeking while I was a Buddhist. It wasn't all clear to me. It didn't. It fit better than Christianity for sure, but Buddhism doesn't go far enough. So when I came across the teachings of Ramana Maharshi, all the seeking stopped, and I stopped calling myself a Buddhist because Advaita Advaita Vedanta, the way that Ramana Maharshi taught it, is truly the end of the teaching. It's the pinnacle of all spiritual teaching. Yeah, I took Ramana Maharshi's teaching literally, especially just this one sentence: "Be rid of current thoughts. That is all." If you just adhere to that, be rid of current thoughts, and just abide in and as thought-free awareness. That's it. It's the whole thing. Hmm. Yeah, I don't think Einstein was an atheist. I think he believed in a higher power. But in my model, God is the reality. So there isn't a separately existing entity that is God and then everything else separate from God. Is that God is a word for the absolute reality that requires nothing relative to it for its existence. So the world and all experience all experience arise and pass against the backdrop of awareness. And that awareness is God. So in physics, it's called the observer. So the observer, God, as and ultimate absolute reality is all the same phenomenon or state. And the thing about non-conceptuality, which is my teaching, is that it's always going to be confusing. It, there will never be a perfect theory or metaphor that it'll always be metaphor, right? An explanation, a description of something, an understanding of something isn't being that thing. It's an understanding of something means that you're exactly not being that thing. So eventually when you engage in the practice of transcending thought, you'll realize that thought will never be able to encapsulate truth. So that's it. The final truth is the dropping of thought. That's the final truth. The final truth is not a thought. The final truth is the realization that thought and the voice in your head will never conclude because it doesn't want to. That's not the voice in your head wants to stay talking. So that's why it never will come up with a conclusion to stop the talking, to stop the questions, because that's not its primary purpose. It's very tricky. Hmm. Yeah, that voice, just think of it as something that believes it's alive, like animals believe they're the body. It'll try to stay alive, right? It wants to keep talking. But that's the ego. That voice in the head is the ego. It's the illusory self that we take ourselves to be that makes us forget that we're actually God. So the voice in your head, if it's silent, then you know that your ego is dead. But if it's blah 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 all the time, it's very much alive, right? So you can't. You, we don't murder the ego. We starve it to death. We starve it of thoughts, right? We starve it of the attention that most people give to their thoughts, right? They follow their thoughts, they give energy to their thoughts because they just and that attention and energy keeps that thought process going, and it keeps the illusion that you are a separately existing entity, it keeps that alive. So, yeah, the silencing of the voice in your head is paramount. And Zen and Buddhism doesn't say that. They don't say that at all. Well, they didn't they didn't the quieting of the voice in the head, even though that's exactly what people do in Zazen, right? That is the point, is it not, of meditation, is to stop the thoughts in your head? So why are they doing Zazen if it's not about silencing the voice in the head? If it's just allowed to run amok after you're done sitting, right? You need to be in that state of meditation all the time until you're no longer meditating, until it's a part of your being. That's your permanent state now, is being aware of that silence from which thoughts arise. Probably. Science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature. And that is because, in the last analysis, we ourselves are part of the mystery that we are trying to solve. I take it even further is that you are God. You are what you are looking for. But there's a forgetting, right? There's some aspect of a forgetting or an acting, right? Pretending. So all science can do is describe the illusion. It actually projects the illusion of separateness because science is measurement, and measurement requires two, right? Every measurement requires two, and science is measurement. So therefore, science is exactly a bifurcating system. It needs duality in order for it to operate. So when science is operating, all it can do is project duality, right? So how is it ever going to reveal unity when all it can possibly do is reveal duality through measurement? So how is that system ever going to reveal unity and singularity? It can't when it gets to that point, right? Singularity, it no longer is able to describe the system. I mean, it's almost embarrassing when you see it this way, is that scientists are literally chasing their own tail, right? They're creating the the system that they're using creates the illusion that they're trying to see past. So they're using the tool that creates the illusion to try to seep through the illusion. So it's madness. Science is actually madness. But we're brainwashed to just believe that science is truth when it is exactly that which produces delusion. And that's why we're in the state we're in. Well, If you go to my website, everything that I present is very simple. It doesn't require, like, a model is supposed to make something easier to understand, right? So all of these theories with all these really smart people, um, that are really complicated and take a lot of explaining and thinking, trying to figure it out. Well, they're just wrong because it's supposed to. Truth is simple. So there's my website, and uh, if you read it a few times, it should all come pretty clear. It's really not that long, but all of my stuff, you just trust your own judgment. That's it. I just say statements based not on what statements that other people have made, like how academia does it. I just base it on experience and just reason. Just like, well, this is a reasonable statement. I think this is a reasonable statement. So let's from there go to the next reasonable statement and see where we end up. It doesn't take any special esoteric knowledge, understanding to understand reality. um, yeah. So part of the theory, the theory of enlightenment, is that I'm going to sound like I'm crazy, but I'm actually not. Okay. So I've interpreted not one, but two messages from the creator, God, us, whatever you want to call it, the creator. And the number system is one of these messages. So there's the deepest philosophical question about mathematics is that, is mathematics discovered or invented? So what my theory says is that the number system, that's just the natural number system, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the number line basically from 1 to infinity, including 0, is a message, right? There's meaning to the number system, And that message, that meaning, is basically samsara. It's the exact same message of samsara that the Hindus revealed thousands of years ago. So the if you think of the number system, it's a linear expression of a cyclical process. So think of a clock that's numbered to 9, or a wheel that's numbered to 9, and it just goes around and around and around, right? So you can count each iteration, right? So the number system is a linear expression of a cyclical process, and what my theory says is that cyclical process is samsara. Samsara is infinite redundancy, right? Over and over and over and over, just like the number system. All right. So the number system, just the number system without addition or any type of mathematics put onto it, is the message. And mathematics, which is adding, right? Adding and counting is the same thing. Adding and counting and quantity is all the same idea, right? It's all the same system. But what my theory says is that's actually wrong. Quantity, the whole idea of quantity and addition and counting, is the incorrect interpretation of the message, right? So the message is you're in samsara, you better start doing stuff to get out of samsara, you're in this delusion, right? But mathematicians assumed that their interpretation of it, of the information, to be counting and quantity. They assume that that interpretation is correct, and it actually isn't. So that's why mathematics goes on forever, and it increases, it always increases in abstraction. So that shows that it's not getting closer to explaining physical reality, it's getting farther away. And the reason why it gets further away as it develops is because from the get-go it's wrong. The whole fucking thing's wrong. So that's why it keeps going forever in increasing abstraction, because it never actually ever did relate to the physical realm. So there's videos where I go into deeper explanations of this, but that's it in a nutshell. So that explains, this resolves the question, right? This resolves that original question: is mathematics discovered or invented? Well, it's invented. The quantity part of it is invented, because it's manipulating the information within the message to try to figure out what the message is, the meaning of the message. So it destroys everything, right? Because it basically says that mathematics is wrong. Not that it doesn't operate, it functions within the system that they've developed to make patterns out of the information of the message. But just because it's making patterns, those patterns are not right. There's an infinite number of incorrect interpretations of a message and only one correct interpretation of a message, right? So my interpretation is correct, and it shows what math is. But because math is so adept at creating technology, we think it's correct. But just because it develops technology doesn't mean that that's the right use of it. Look at what technology is doing to the planet and to our species and to other species. There you go. That's a good one. I thought you were just busting that out, and I was like, man, that's pretty good. But Einstein, if Einstein said that, yeah. But I mean, trying to get mathematicians to accept, even though it makes perfect sense. The descriptions, I go into it even into greater detail in those videos, even though it makes more sense than the 360-page proof no one understands of 1 plus 1 equals 2. That even though it makes more sense, Occam's razor would say, well, this makes more sense that it's this than actually what they think it is. They can't accept it, right? Because they're mathematicians. They believe in math. So it's no one is willing, hardly anyone is willing to accept the truth. The truth reveals all that's false, and it turns out that all of mathematics is false. I'm saying that 1 plus 1 equals 2 is a correct statement, but it's not a true statement. It's correct in that the rules that it, it's a creation, right? It's an invention. So the invention of that system is self-consistent, but it's not relating to anything. It's just relating to itself. It's not relating to the physical realm at all. That's the delusion, is that mathematics is relating to the physical world, and it isn't at all. It's all just thought. It's all within the thought realm. So yeah, what does quantity even mean? What, like, it's just an imagined, it's just imagined. It's fantasy. Quantity is just imagination. Um, I believe that it is a way in which to describe what's going on, but every description, of course, is not exactly the way it is. But it's a very accurate way of explaining what the purpose of life is. The purpose of life is to escape samsara. This is a divine game, labyrinth to escape from, mystery to solve. So samsara equals game. Samsara equals puzzle or labyrinth. I don't think Alan Watts came up with much himself. He was a great teacher and he learned a lot about spirituality, but I don't think he came up with much original. He had good ways of describing what other people have described and relating what other people have related, but he didn't. I don't think he came up with anything original. A very good communicator, though. I don't know if he said that the purpose of the game is to conclude the game. I'm not sure if he went that far, because that's what I say is that the purpose of the game is entertainment, and the goal of the game is to find conclusion of the game, just like a mystery or a puzzle or a labyrinth. I'm not stubborn. I know what I know. I see what I see. I can't not see what I see. And I know what I know. It doesn't matter who says otherwise. Um, I have sincerely asked to I have sincerely asked the universe, my higher self, whatever, to be for reality to be revealed to me. Very sincerely, I have made this a request, and then I actually engaged in the practice that Ramana Maharshi prescribed. That is what's made all the difference, is that I stopped asking questions because I knew that I found the answer, and then I just adhered to the practice. And that is what has opened up whatever to reveal all of this to me. So I guess I'm more of a messenger of God than I am a genius. And I think messenger of God is a cooler title than genius. It's one step higher, I think. I just happen to be the first human that's properly, correctly identified and interpreted these messages. Because I have the ability to see what's obvious. That's all. I just have the ability to see what other people can't see, but that's here all the time. For whatever reason, I'm able to see the whole. I just naturally can see the whole. Hello. Glad you could make it. So the way this game is designed is that it's designed to attract attention because your attention is what breathes life into animates this whole world. It breathes life into the world. Your attention is life, basically. So mathematics, every system of thought is a mechanism through which attention is diverted away from self and onto thinking, onto the voice in your head. Math is just another language that the voice in the head talks through. It's all it is. There's nothing special about math other than it can it doesn't even need to relate to the physical realm to generate thought anymore. So that's why it's so powerful, and it has mathematicians a certain quality of consciousness really finds mathematics interesting, the patterns it develops. And that is distracting them away from self. It's distracting them and pulling their attention away from exactly what I'm doing, right? What I'm doing is thought-free awareness, just beingness. So while I'm sitting here, I know I exist in and of my own existence. That's it, right? My own being, I know I exist because of my beingness, through my beingness. I don't need to be have anything relative to me to know that I exist because I just am abiding in my own existence. So no thoughts are required, and a mathematician requires thoughts to reaffirm their existence because they don't know of the stillness. They don't know their true self. They've never contacted this being, this stillness, the absolute that's underlying, that's the frame of reference for all the thoughts that appear. So basically, math is just, I know I exist while I'm thinking. I think, therefore I am. But it's not necessary. Yeah, all experience, it's so trippy to think this way, to see it this way, but all experience is a distraction. It's the whole purpose of all of this is to serve as a distraction because it's the game. I don't think math is natural. It destroys nature. Look, the technology that math, what the interaction between math and the physical world is technology. And technology is destroying nature, is it not? So yeah, it's unnatural. It's exactly unnatural because it's wrong, because it's because it's the incorrect interpretation of a powerful message that God himself has created. But the way it works is that if I'm an atheist, then this theory automatically is wrong, right? My theory is wrong. If someone isn't capable of adjusting their belief system or transcending it or suspending it for to find some truth, then their beliefs will take over, right? I am an atheist. I don't believe in God or some sort of higher level or being or whatever higher level of self-awareness even. And this includes that. So therefore this is wrong, right? That's how most people operate. It's not, oh well, even what he's saying is reasonable. Like when if you take if you put aside your beliefs and you just go along with me along my reasoning, my steps of reasoning, you'll find that they're reasonable statements. So if you agree with all the reasonable statements, but at the end you don't accept the conclusion that all those reasonable statements lead to, well, then you'll never find the truth, will you? If this is the truth, and then you just don't accept it because that doesn't go along with your belief system, then you'll never find truth, will you? If this is the truth, then you will remain in ignorance, believing your incorrect worldview. So a lot of these guys, they give lip service to, oh, you have to have an open mind and you have to be able to adapt and blah blah blah, and they don't. It gets to a certain level, and when you start saying that the voice in your head itself is not truth, is actually lying, that's where the problem is, then that's where they shut down. Because all of academia, like I've said many times before, academia is the religion that worships the voice in the head. So if you're an academic and you're trying to talk academicese to other academics, and then you start saying, well, all of it's wrong, that's going to be tough, right? Most the people that I have presented this to don't have the balls to do it. They just don't. Even though they're supposed to be the ones that are leading these theories, they're followers. They're not leaders at all. They're just academia sets up this. You have to base your theory on the truths of other people's theories that went before you. And if they're all wrong, then you're basing your theory on incorrect theories that you're assuming to be true, and you're referencing them as truth. But if they're all wrong, then you're just all wrong. All of it's wrong. And then you end up with modern monetary theory coming out of academia, which is fucking insanity. Stuff like that. But once you've been brainwashed, once you're in a cult and everyone around you is in the same cult, basically all of humanity is in the same cult, then I sound like the crazy person, right? I sound like I'm developing a cult. Well, animate means moving, right? Like if something's animated, it appears as though it's changing. So yeah, so the we've taken the description, the representation of the reality to be the reality. That's the problem. Is that we've taken the what is supposed to be describing reality to be the reality. Excuse me, sorry. The imaginary number square root of -1. What does that even mean? It's theoretically impossible, but used. It's a game, right? If you look at it from my theory's perspective, that it is the incorrect interpretation of a message designed perfect, intentionally designed by the creator, right? So like I said in the videos where I talk about this, the incorrect unpacking of a message directly designed by God, well, that incorrect unpacking will lead to infinity, right? So this is Gödel's incompleteness theorem, is that this is why mathematics is a system that will never conclude or come to an answer, because it's from the initial assumption is incorrect. So until that initial assumption is recognized as being incorrect, quantity itself as a concept, the whole thing is incorrect. It's wrong, right? So all of this fancy manipulation that they're doing with the information that's in the number system, the infinite redundancy that is samsara, well, it's they're just infinitely going down they're staying in the delusion. They're not understanding the message that is placed within the system that creates the illusion, which is symbol and language, right? Symbol and language is what's creating the delusion. It's projecting the illusion that's creating the delusion. So we have to use symbol system to implant a meme or something in to help break a person out of the very symbols and language is caused. So it's a very endeavor, and it's only caught on now. Like I don't care about Roy Dobson, and I'm not bragging. It's just this is what happened, is that now finally it's been revealed through this Roy Dobson dude. The message, it's a message, and math is wrong. It's the incorrect interpretation of that message of samsara. And because we've incorrectly interpreted it, the use of that incorrect interpretation is leading us deeper into delusion, right? The technology that mathematics creates, its interaction with the physical world, is destroying the physical world, right? Technology has us completely addicted to it, completely reliant upon it, and it's just also happens to be killing all biological life on the planet. So how is math not wrong when you look at it that way? But no one seems to be able to or wants to take my perspective, see it from my perspective, and try to understand it from my perspective, because it shows that everyone's wrong. Uh, everyone's wrong the whole time. And that's a really tough red pill to swallow. I love that phrase. That's a really tough red pill to swallow. Wow. I guess I should have listened to that part. I wish I could get on Joe Rogan. Oh man, Joe and I would be buds. Go play some pool, talk about the meaning of life and stuff. Now I have to watch the whole thing through, or just maybe let me know where he starts talking about math there. More like ignored. If you have a following of less than 1,000 people, no one gives a shit what you have to say. So they're just playing the ignoring. What is it? First they ignore you, then they, I don't know, laugh at you, and then they attack you, and then you win. I think that's how it goes. I'm still in the ignoring stage. All these academics are ignoring me because they can. Yeah. Yeah. If I made it onto Rogan, there would be a lot of people attacking me for sure. Fearmonger. That's what I'd be called, a fearmonger, because my prediction is that we're going to go extinct. So that's fear. It would be easy to classify what I'm talking about as a cult because it's got all the same. The cult guys always try to use little bits of truth to manipulate people. So there's quite often there's a lot of truth in the bullshit that they're talking about, but it just stays. They just manipulate that truth into something basically evil. The thing is I don't. Truth does not need to be proved. You don't. It doesn't matter how many people believe truth. Truth is truth. Whether one person sees it or everybody sees it, truth is truth. I don't care. It doesn't affect the message if people don't understand it. Fortunately, my livelihood doesn't depend upon non-conceptuality. I don't ask for any money. It's not the point. I'm of the belief that the universe knows, the universe will provide if someone's doing, if someone's following the right path, the correct path. The universe, none of this came from donations or tithing from the group. This is all just the universe saying, "We got your back because you are living the truth." I came up with the idea and I got someone to make it for me, and then I just mounted it to the wall. That thing was really expensive. It's like the plastic, like the plastic board that it came on is an inch thick, and it's a 4x8 sheet, and it was like $1,000 for one 4x8 sheet of this stuff. So that's like a $1,200 yin yang right there. But I mean, if it was a piece of art, it could be tens of thousands of dollars, right, for a piece of art. So that's cheap for a piece of art, I guess. Are you an artist? What is your medium? Cool, cool. Yeah, that's the purpose. The purpose of all of this, of the life of your name here, is is to solve this mystery, to solve the puzzle that you're actually God. Sorry for the spoiler alert. And then when you've found it, when you've solved it, you're done, right? So you sit in a chair like me and just be content because you've solved it. You're done. It's the most wonderful feeling, right? Of contentment, right? Completion. Like, let's say you've had a really, really busy day and you got everything completed that you wanted to, all of your goals that you set for the day have been satisfied, and you're done. You did everything that you wanted to do, and now you just sit and be content. Yep, our natural state. It's so it's so paradoxical and ironic that it seems like it's so difficult to remain in the natural state. Like to not do something seems like the hardest thing to do. To not do something or think something and to just be. It seems that seems like the unnatural state. The the just sitting here being without thought and without movement, without action, mental or physical action, that seems like the unnatural state because we take the waking state to be the natural state. So we take the unnatural state to be the natural state, and that's how we miss all of this happiness, this our inherent natural state of just perfect contentment and absolute happiness. So our natural state, what we do is we trade in our happiness for interest. That's what we like. We have a like a happiness debit card, and we trade in our happiness for interest. We're interesting. We're interested rather than happy. There's a difference between being interested and being happy. See, when you're watching a movie or you're playing a video game, you're interested, but you're not happy, are you? That's not a state of happiness. That's a state of interest. Yeah, the whole world is in debt, isn't it? It's fascinating how they're all holographic expressions. It's everything's metaphor. People don't understand that everything is metaphor, right? What's happening within the financial system and the incredible amounts of debt that's piling up because of the Ponzi scheme that is the fiat money currency system. That is another holographic expression of the karmic debt that we're getting into, right? It's the same it's the same expression in a different shape, right? The hologram is it's the same image no matter what shape the image is on, it's always the same image. All debts come due. And the karmic debt that humanity is going to pay is going to be horrendous, right? That's the payment will be hell. We can't there's no way we can pay this, like humanity as a whole has to pay back what they've done, what we've done by following science basically and thought. You have to pay all that karma back, and it's going to be a lot of suffering. There's a lot of suffering paying back this karmic debt. But what we're doing here as non-conceptualists, we're transcending the whole process. Well, I'm not going to tell you that it's not going to happen because my theory predicts that it's actually going to happen. that that we're in near-term extinction. By near term, I mean probably 20 years at the most we've got left. But the good news is that this isn't reality. This is a dream, right? So it's a dream that's going to turn into a nightmare. But if you're lucid in a dream, then a nightmare isn't terrifying, is it? You just stroll through a nightmare when you're lucid because you know it's not real. If you think it's real, then it's terrifying, right? It's a bad time if you think the nightmare is real. But if you engage in this one step path and stick with this non conceptuality group, you will be able to be lucid while this is happening and it won't bother you. Depending on your level of enlightenment or lucidity, it, it will if you're completely lucid like Ramana Maharshi was, I mean, even physical pain, you're impervious even to physical excruciating physical pain, you're even impervious to. So that this is how to prepare for World War III is to not try to avoid it because it's probably unavoidable, but to realize that it doesn't matter because it's a video game or a dream. Well, what happens after death depends upon your level of self-awareness while you were in the waking state. If if a person really has hasn't even noticed the space between thoughts and has never even found that stillness that is the self, that is the frame of reference upon which everything arises, if you've never even noticed that, then in the death state you will seek out another relative form of existence, right? So another world will arise within you that's very similar to the one that you just took to be real, right? So that's the redundancy of it, is that you are looking for something familiar. So another world will, it's not that you are reborn in the world is reborn in you. So that's what really happens, is another world arises, another story, another narrative arises within your awareness, God's awareness. If you're totally engaged and immersed in the game, then you will want to play more game. But if you're done playing games, if you're done playing the game, then there will not be a reload. It will not be reloaded. There will not be a sequel. So what normally happens to most people after death is life. Birth, I mean, not the opposite of death is not life. There is no opposite of life. So let me restate that. To most people, what happens after death is birth. There will be another birth, which is actually the arising of another world within your awareness. And that world will be quite similar to this one, kind of like a fractal of of your name, the life of your name here. You're finding it now. If you follow my stuff, I really believe you'll understand it. Like I said, it's I didn't go through academia, and so I don't believe in increasing complexity. I make everything simple. So my understanding is equally available to everyone, I believe, especially if you engage in the practice. You really need to engage in the practice of the one-step path, basically meditation, in order to really get what I'm saying, in order to not just understand what I'm saying, but to live it, to be like what I'm saying is it's beingness, right? Like this becomes realized through your very life, through experience, not just understanding. The understanding of it is when you describe the experience, when you describe your experience, that's its understanding. It's not something that you've learned through school that someone told you to memorize and therefore you know it because you've memorized whatever this other person told you. It's you know it because it is your direct experience. You are speaking, you are describing your direct experience. You're not just parroting what someone else taught you. But it might take decades. Like it's taken decades for this to unfold fully. To me, it's taken over a decade for this theory to finally, especially the number system thing. I've been working on this for like a long time, right? And it's unfolded. It's so deep and powerful that even to me, it's taken years for it to finally reveal itself how deep and meaningful and important these messages are. Like it's only been the last year that I've even recognized, right? Before I thought, oh, well, this is something that Roy Dahl out of his it wasn't, it isn't. It's revealing. It's a noticing, it's a recognition, it's a recognition. It's not a creation. Like when you look at the fundamental model of reality, that triune system that you'll come across if you study my stuff, you don't need to be taught that. You need to be shown it, right? If you see it, it'll just either you'll get it or you won't. It's not like, oh, I need to try to learn something to see what's being presented in this message. You just see it. Either you're ready to see the message clearly, or you're not. You're able to adjust your focus to see the image in the what's it called, stereogram. Anyway, either you can see it or you can't. Basically, stereogram. Is that what it is? I think so. Yeah, for sure. Just everything, everything arises naturally from the stillness. So just really just adhere to the practice, and everything will fall in line. That your life really becomes effortless when you adhere to the practice, and you're not trying to change reality through the I thought. I want to do this. I should do this, or something should be different, and something needs to be changed. Just make it a regular practice. I would say, like when I started out, I would have at least 20 minutes set aside every day to practice. At least 20 minutes every day, consistent. Make it consistent. And off the start, it might be a real difficult. You might find yourself either falling asleep or thoughts running away from you, but eventually you'll find the sweet spot where you can just sit and just be. You just keep letting go of chasing the thoughts. You'll find that you're chasing thoughts, but as soon as you notice that you've been chasing thoughts, well, then you just let go again. So as much as you can possibly stand. And also it doesn't do any good if you, I shouldn't say it doesn't do any good, but if you spend an hour meditating and then you spend an hour watching the screen, watching YouTube, then what it it's not as beneficial. It's like working out really hard and then just eating McDonald's all the time or potato chips, right? In order for it to be all the system to be running on all cylinders to be the most effective, you need to slow the mind down, slow the churning of that thoughts process, slow it down. So it's always inwardly focused, always. It just, the times when you've experienced boredom and you want to be entertained, instead of being entertained, sit and engage in the practice, right? Find your innate happiness rather than trying to create some artificial temporary happiness that will automatically interest. Sorry, it's not even happiness, it's just interest. So instead of trying to find something that will hold your intellectual interest, engage in the practice, slow the mind down, because boredom is only a result of overstimulation. That's all it is. You've just been overstimulated. Every time you get a little bored, I'm not saying this of you. So I'm just saying that people in general, as soon as they start feeling a little bored, then they just plow, like they just like immediately find, humanity is always searching for something, some relative form of existence. They're always searching for some exterior input. Basically, even thoughts are exterior inputs. Right? So that's what we need to turn around. We need to reverse that. So we're looking for the stillness all the time to find our natural state, which is absolute happiness. Absolute in that it doesn't require anything. No, it doesn't require special circumstances in order to realize your happiness, because you are happiness. So we're just getting back to our natural state, which is inwardly focused. And once you get past the boredom, it's bliss. It's Satchitananda. That's what, if you can break through, it's like breaking through the sound barrier, right? Like it's pushing really, really hard, and then bam, you're through it. And once you're through it, it's just, oh, like so much easier. Trust me, once you get through that barrier of boredom, on the other side is bliss. On the other side of boredom is bliss. So instead of giving in and becoming engaged in the world and sensations and thoughts again, don't. Just stay inward, get through the boredom, and find your bliss on the other side. All these, if you're following some sort of esoteric, weird, spiritual, hokey pokey routine teaching, that's not it. It's not complicated. It's just one thing all the time. Always bringing your attention when you find that it's outwardly focused on thoughts and sensations, you just bring it back. That's all. Over and over and over and over. You don't have a special handshake or, some sort of special spiritual hokey pokey routine that you're supposed to do in order for God to be on your side and nonsense like that, right? It's very simple and basic. It's just shifting your attention away. So it's very difficult. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy in practice. In theory, it's easy, but in practice, it might be very difficult off the start. Yeah, whatever. If as long as it's not stimulating and generating the voice in your head, like focusing. See what's good about Zen is that you remain in the analog world. By analog world, I mean the world of the senses, right? So to me, at least they're not following thought, right? At least Zen is rooted in the physical realm of the senses. However, for full enlightenment, one needs to realize that the physical world of the senses is also an illusion. And they don't do that. They don't talk about that at all. They don't recognize how even the physical world of the senses is an illusion that needs to be transcended. It's part of the game, it's part of the labyrinth. So if you're outwardly focused on sensations rather than thoughts, perhaps that's a more stable state, but it still isn't enlightenment, right? It's you still need to realize and transcend this experience. So I don't think Zen Buddhism teaches that final step of even ignoring senses, like not following sensations. So Zen is subtly influenced by materialism. Hearing, sight, smell, sound, touch. The senses. That's all. And thought, in my model, thought, which is internal, right? The source of the voice in your head cannot be found external to the body. Whereas sight, sound, hearing, taste, touch can all the source of all of those senses can be found exterior to the body. So that's my dividing line. When they say body mind, that's the separation. Is mind is the voice in the head, where the non-physical source, and body is the sensations, where the source of the sensation can be found external to the body. And Ramana Maharshi had that down to such like perfection that he was impervious to pain, right? So that's how you become impervious to pain, is that you are able to withdraw your attention away from the senses so they don't affect you. It's just like living vicariously the what is happening to a character in a movie, right? If a character in a movie is stabbed in the eye, well, most people watching the movie will go like this, right? Like you vicariously live through it. But this, I'm telling you that this is the same, a movie. So if someone stuck Ramana Maharshi in the eye, he would not flinch like people watching a movie would flinch when the character is poked in the eye. See? It's all fractal and holographic in nature. Yeah, I would say. And the guide as to whether you're playing the game, whether your strategy in the game is working, is happiness and suffering. So if you're losing at the game, if you're suffering, the more you're suffering, the more you're losing at the game. the more you're being distracted by Maya. And the less suffering and the more happiness you're experiencing, well, that means that you're winning at the game. You're on the right path. So obviously, if happiness and suffering are the guide of truth, then I would say humanity, it's safe to say that humanity is going through more suffering than it ever has, psychological suffering anyway. So therefore, it's not on the path of truth at all, right? It's following the path of the illusion and delusion. That's why humanity is suffering so greatly, is because it's falling deeper into delusion. It only makes sense. Right. If we had our shit together, why would we be suffering so much? And that's just the suffering that's bubbling to the top all the time. If Can you imagine how much suffering there'd be if the internet just there was no internet yet tomorrow there's no internet. There's no screen, nothing is showing up on any screen anywhere. Can you imagine how much suffering there'd be in humanity just from that? Just from just nothing appearing on the screen. Well, humanity would absolutely go fucking crazy, right? Like, so we're even trying to obscure and hide the deep level of suffering that keeps bubbling up to the top when we don't get what we want, when we don't have it. As long as an addict has the source of their addiction is readily available to an addict, everything's fine, right? But when that runs out, when the addict can't find any more stuff that they're addicted to, then that's going to be a lot of suffering. So humanity, when this collapses, is going to be, it's going to be hell. It's going to be literal hell. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it would take, there would be withdrawal symptoms depending on how fast, how addicted you were before, and how quickly you removed that, right? How quickly you turned your attention away from the screen. Well, I think that's it for week, this week's satsang. So I don't know how to pronounce that combination of letters, but good to see you. Hopefully you'll come back and be a part of our little group. Usually there's more than this, 7 or so, but yeah, thanks for dropping by, and I hope non-conceptuality helps in whatever way you want help. All right, see you guys.